Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting session on economics for managerial decision making. In this session, we are going to focus on a very important and realistic topic in a managerial decision making, and that is making decisions under uncertainty. In real business environments, managers rarely have perfect information. Demand fluctuations, cost change, and outcomes are uncertain. So, the key question becomes, how do we make the best possible decision when outcomes are uncertain? Very important question. So, by the time you finish this session, you should be able to, number one, understand probability and expected value. Number two, apply these concepts to managerial decision making. Number three, identify profit maximizing strategies under uncertainty. And number four, use marginal analysis when demand and costs are unpredictable. Now, let's understand what probability is. This is the core foundation of today's topic. Let's start with the basics. Probability is simply the likelihood that an event will occur. It ranges from 0 to 1. 0 means 0%, 1 means 100%. So, what does it mean? 0 means impossible, 1 means is certain, absolutely certain, 100% probability. All probabilities together must sum to 1, right? Everything should sum to 100%, maybe 20% probability or 30%. Whenever you have certain items with a different probability, they must all add up to 100% or 1. 1 means 100 divided by 100 is 1. For example, probability of high demand is zero point 0.6, that means 60%, and probability of low demand is zero point 0.4 or 40%. And when you add these, 0.6 plus zero point 0.4, the total is 1. In business, probability helps managers quantify uncertainty. That's the way to harness uncertainty, probability analysis. That's the key. Now, what is the difference between objective and subjective probability? So, objective probability is based on historical data, and subjective probability, that is based on simply opinions, judgment, or experience. In many real world cases, managers rely on subjective estimates primarily due to lack of data. Now let's look at another related term, expected value. Expected value is a decision tool. It is commonly used for decision making. And this is one of the most important concepts that we will discuss in this session. So, expected value is abbreviated as EV. EV equal to weighted average of all possible outcomes. So, the formula for expected value is EV is equal to sum of product of outcome and probability. all possible values. For example, profit if demand is high is equal to 100,000, just assume, or probability, the probability for that is 60%. And profit if demand is low is $40,000 with the probability 40%. So what is the expected profit based on these two scenarios? Each situation has two numbers. One is the actual profit, and second thing is probability. So we have a pair. Now we have one is the weight, other one is the value outcome. So in the first scenario, outcome is 100,000 and probability is 60%. And the second situation, we have outcome $40,000 and the probability is 40%. Okay, so if we apply the formula, that's expected value is equal to sum of the product of outcome and probability. So what we get? We get expected value is equal to, remember this, first you multiply weight with the outcome for the first scenario, then add it to the same thing for the another scenario. So that gives us 100,000 times 0.6, that product, plus the product of $40,000 and 0.4, that's 40% probability. So when you solve this, what we get is total expected profit of $76,000. Managers use expected value to make rational decisions under uncertainty, and this is a very commonly used and very important decision making tool. Now let's apply this to real business decisions. Firms often face high demand or low demand, but they must decide production before knowing the outcome. Here's the key concept: produce where expected marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. That is a EMR is equal to MC. The important point to note here is if you produce too much, it leads to losses even if demand is low. And if you produce too little, it leads to missed profits if demand is high. That's given. So the goal is not perfect accuracy. The goal is to maximize expected profit in nutshell. Now, what happens when costs are also uncertain? In this case, profit maximization occurs where marginal revenue is equal to expected marginal cost. That is, MR is equal to EMC. When both demand and costs are uncertain, then what happens? Then, in that case, what we're looking for is expected marginal revenue equal to expected marginal cost. EMR is equal to EMC. And that's the formula for decision making under uncertainty, total uncertainty. Uncertainty of demand and uncertainty of cost. Another important topic is inventory decisions under uncertainty. And this poses a practical situation because inventory is the what we face a real life dilemma how to handle that. For example, a bakery deciding how many loaves of bread to produce. If they produce too much, that leads to unsold inventory, that leads to loss. If they produce too little, then that can lead to missed sales, that's a lost profit. So there is a dilemma here, and how to make a decision in this dilemma. So the decision rule is expected marginal benefit is equal to expected marginal cost. In other words, EMB is equal to EMC. So what is the takeaway? Expected benefit is equal to probability item sells and multiplied by the profit it produces, right? So expected benefit is equal to probability that item sells times the profit it generates. And how about expected cost? Expected cost is equal to probability that item doesn't sell multiplied by loss because of this. So how to find a optimal level? There are two situations here. To find the optimal level of production, you need to balance the two, expected benefit and expected cost. That's EMB is equal to EMC. We also need to consider risk management in this situation. And risk management or risk aversion is human behavior in decision making. So, what does it mean? What is risk aversion? People prefer a certain outcome over a risky one with the same expected value. For example, to mitigate risks, what people do, they buy insurance, they diversify investments, they settle lawsuits. Managers are often risk averse in general, which influences decisions beyond pure profit maximization. Risk aversion or risk mitigation is an important consideration in managerial decision making. Now let's look at the big picture. That includes a decision making framework. Let's summarize the process managers should follow. Step 1, identify possible outcomes. Number 2, step 2, assign probabilities. Step 3, calculate expected values. Step 4, apply marginal analysis. Here's the key rule of thumb to remember: make decisions where expected marginal benefit is equal to expected marginal cost. How these topics that we have discussed help with the real life situations, real world situations. These concepts apply to pricing decisions, production planning, inventory management, risk management, and legal decisions. That means settling the versus litigation. This is how real managers think, not with certainty, but with the probability and expected outcomes. So, what are the takeaways from this whole discussion? Business decisions are rarely certain. Managers must rely on probability and expected value. The goal is to maximize expected profit, not guaranteed outcome. Marginal analysis remains the key tool, always, even under uncertainty. So, as future managers, focus on understanding expected value calculations, practice applying expected marginal revenue and expected marginal cost, and think about real world uncertainty in business decisions. All the best. Thank you for watching.